October 26, 2020. I was going to say June. Good wishing summer was beginning, right? Welcome back to the Dojo Live recap show, where we try to recap last week's shows inside of 10 minutes. 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. So we had 3 shows. First of all, I want to welcome my co-host, Kim Lantis. Hi, Kim. Welcome back.
Yes, Julia, thanks.
All right, here we go. So we had 3 shows. The first one was titled Multilingual Meetings and the Future Work with Fardad Zabetian of KUDO. We talked about their awesome translation to platform where you can have multi-stream video and everyone, no matter where they are in the world, can receive the translation in their own language, which is really cool. And then we talked about idea to SaaS, leading brand evolution as a female entrepreneur with Herrmann and Kimberly Sullivan of Herrmann International. Interesting conversation there. And then, of course, the final conversation, not the least conversation, was learning from failure with Lucas Ward of Kin Insurance. So I lean toward the last show that we had, learning from failure, because it's something that's near and dear to me, something I talk about a great deal, even in my own personal podcast, about how we can grow and learn and look at failure as just nothing more than a proven successful way that something didn't work. So it's just another opportunity to grow and learn, and the importance of not staying so attached and fixed in your way of doing things that actually causes organizations to be very rigid. And really enjoyed listening to him and hearing from him, especially about the kind of culture that they've created, which encourages employees to take risks, to learn and grow, and to, basically push the envelope. You're not really growing until you fail, because you're pushing yourself beyond your capacity, and in doing so, expand your capacity. So great show. If those of you didn't see it, go check it out.
I think the quote of Lucas that was early on in his show, and I really liked it a lot, was, if you're not comfortable failing, are you trusting yourself? Because that's what matters, right? Do you trust yourself to deal with things? And I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, and you got to just get comfortable with the idea that failing is just natural form of life. Life eventually comes to an end. So you could say that life fails. It ends in a failure, right? So we got to get used to this idea that you're going to try things, they're not going to work out, you're going to fail, and you're going to learn from it. So great show. I encourage people to look at that, especially in the context of building a business. A lot of great lessons, a lot of great wisdom that he shared with those who paid attention. Those who didn't listen, check it out. Okay, what else came up for you? What other show of the 3 stood out for you, Kim?
Well, I got the opportunity to co-host the other 2. If we want to go back to idea to SaaS with Anne and Kimberly, that talk I found to be very interesting. It was basically a discussion about resilience and adaptability and what they do at Herrmann International. And basically what they do is whole brain thinking training. And so where she came in, I think it's a 3rd generation company. And what they're doing now is taking her father's brain dominance instrument and making it digital, right? So these trainings and things used to happen more in person, and now this is World Wide Web. And yeah, it was interesting because they talk about, with his instrument, there's, I think, 4 different types of thinking, and how we can, we usually lean as individuals more into one of those quadrants, and how if we can learn the other types of thinking and adapt accordingly, it's just going to make us as a company and as individuals better communicators. And to me, it really reminded me of the 5 love languages, right? That different people speak different languages. And if we can learn how to adapt to that, we're all going to be better for it. So tapping into the analytical thinkers, the sequential thinkers, interpersonal thinkers, imaginative thinkers. What kind of thinker are you, Tulio?
Well, I'm an experimental thinker a lot. So what I enjoyed about the conversation we had is the possibility where an organization can adopt a common language, so that you can actually sort of give a heads up if you're in a meeting that, hey, go with me now in this process, right? So it doesn't scare people that you're thinking out loud And because sometimes you're thinking out loud, it sounds like you're about to make huge changes, and people just kind of hold on to their chairs real tight, like, "Oh my gosh, what is going to happen?" And they don't realize that some of us just think that way. We process thoughts out loud, so it's like experimental thinking. And so just having a common language to be able to tell another individual, and looking at your app, for example, for some, in a group meeting where you say, okay, there's 10 people that are not, experimental thinker fans, right? So I got to give them a heads up that this is what's happening now, so that they don't freak out, for me just doing what I do. So
Right.
I like this idea of developing a common language through their app, through their technology, so that organizations can communicate to each other and not create conflict that is otherwise just misunderstandings that take place just because people communicate differently, just like the love language you mentioned. Then we talked to Fardad Zabetian of KUDO, and I thought what they created was very, very timely. Clearly, the pandemic has worked to their favor in terms of adoption and growth. But I also really like the idea that they went out to create a model where, there are no second-class citizens in an organization. If you live in another country and the stand-up meetings or the monthly all-hands meeting is taking place in one particular language, those individuals in other countries sometimes feel like they're second-class citizens because they're not getting the benefit of their native language. So they're providing a vehicle now to do translation services. So essentially, I think they have something like, I forget, thousands of different people available to do on-demand translation, so that you're watching this video, you could see it in your local language, Spanish,
Right.
Chinese, whatever. And also that they have people that will translate even some of the sort of tone and try to localize jokes as best as possible. But the most important thing is it's about really achieving inclusion, right? A lot of companies talk about this, but lack the technology to actually pull it off. And with KUDO, you can actually pull that off. Anyone in the organization at any given time can have access to the information they need, and you can communicate with them in their own local language.
In real time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I like the feature where you don't have two voices in your ear. I think they can sort of mute out the original speaker and you're only hearing the translator. Because to me, when I can hear both, it messes me up.
Look, they've taken the advantage of what you get if you were a UN ambassador, right, and brought it to the masses. That's really what they've done, right?
Yeah.
So kudos to them. Very appropriate name, KUDO.
KUDO.
And okay, so that's it for last week. If you want to get the details of the show, they're only about 20, 30 minutes each. Just check them out. You can look at this posting. There's a link in wherever you're watching us, and in that link, you can check out all the interviews. We've got plenty more coming up this week. Do you have that in front of you, Kim? Let's see if I can pull it up.
I do, I believe so. But I'm looking, honestly, I'm looking at my calendar and I'm looking at the website and they're not jiving, so I'm a bit confused.
I hear you. You got to hit the upcoming button on the website to get the latest. Okay, so here's what we got coming up. All right, so we've got Auto Loans, Your Secret to Savings with Nancy Fitzgerald. And then we have Outbound Sales, Outreach, and Closing Deals with Stan Rimkinwitz. I'm sorry if I botched that name up. I apologize. I'll get it right at the time
We're really
of the show.
good at botching up names.
And then exactly. And then we have Creating Relevant Contextual Experience to Drive Digital Customer Engagement with Paula Tompkins. These are the 3 shows coming up this week. I think actually we have a 4th one possibly. No, that's coming up, and that's in November. So that's the shows coming up this week. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific. We'll be back. And until then, stay safe.